There is an old road on the edge of a forgotten town. Everyone calls it Dead End Road. At the very end of that road stands an old abandoned house. The people in the town believe that anyone who enters the house after sunset never returns. Most people are too afraid to even look at the house. They say strange voices come from inside every night, and sometimes a shadow can be seen watching from the upstairs window. A young photographer named Ethan heard the story and laughed. He loved exploring haunted places and wanted to prove that ghosts were not real. One evening, he packed his camera, flashlight, and backpack. As the sun disappeared behind the hills, he drove toward Dead End Road. The closer he got, the colder the air became. Soon, he reached the end of the road, where the dark old house stood waiting in complete silence. Ethan slowly walked toward the house. The rusty gate opened with a loud creak, even though no one touched it. Dead leaves covered the ground, and every step echoed through the empty yard. The front door was already open, as if someone had been expecting him. Taking a deep breath, Ethan switched on his flashlight and stepped inside. The moment he entered, the door slammed shut behind him with a terrifying bang. The inside of the house was darker than Ethan had imagined. Dust covered every piece of furniture, and thick spider webs hung from the ceiling. Old family portraits covered the walls. As Ethan looked closer, his heart skipped a beat. Every person in the paintings had their eyes scratched out. Suddenly, he heard a loud creaking sound from upstairs. It sounded like someone was slowly walking across trying to stay calm. Ethan climbed the stairs one step at a time. Each step made a loud creaking noise. At the end of the hallway, he found a small bedroom. Inside, an old wooden rocking chair was moving by itself. Back and forth, back and forth. The room was freezing cold. Then, a soft child's voice whispered from the darkness, "Leave, before she finds you." Floor. Ethan quickly turned around, but no one was there. Suddenly, his camera switched on by itself. Looking at the screen, he saw something terrifying. A tall woman in a long black dress was standing behind him. He spun around with his flashlight, but the hallway was empty. When he looked back at the camera, the woman had moved much closer. Her long black hair covered her face, and she stood completely still, silently watching him. Ethan's breathing became faster. He slowly stepped away from the camera and walked toward the stairs. Suddenly, the lights in the house started flashing. The walls began making strange sounds, like someone was whispering from inside them. Ethan looked at the old portraits again and froze. The scratched faces were no longer empty. Every picture now showed the same woman standing behind the terrified. Ethan ran downstairs and searched for the front door. But the house had changed. The hallway that was short before now seemed endless. Every door he opened led to another dark room. Then he heard the woman's voice behind him. "You should not have come here." Ethan turned around slowly. The woman was standing at the end of the hallway. The woman slowly moved closer. Her face was pale, and her eyes were completely black. Ethan tried to run, but the floor beneath him began to shake. He fell to the ground and dropped his camera. When he picked it up, he saw a shocking image on the screen. The camera showed Ethan standing inside the house, but behind him was a shadow of himself trapped in the wall. Ethan grabbed his camera and ran toward the front door with all his strength. The house started shaking around him. The walls cracked, the windows broke, and the whispers became louder. He reached the door and pulled it open. For a moment, he thought he was free. But before leaving, he heard the woman's voice behind him. "You forgot something." Ethan stopped, and slowly standing in the darkness was the woman in the black dress. She was holding an old photograph in her hand. Ethan looked at the picture and felt his blood turn cold. It was a picture of him, standing inside the house. The woman smiled and whispered, "Everyone who enters this house becomes part of its story." Ethan dropped the photograph and ran into the night. Back. The next morning, the police searched the house. They found Ethan's backpack, his flashlight, and his camera. But Ethan was gone. No one knew where he disappeared. Years later, people still say that if you visit Dead End Road at midnight, you can see a man standing at the upstairs window. Some say it is Ethan, holding a camera, waiting for the next person to enter the house. The end. If you enjoyed this scary story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more horror stories.